many of you know Sri Aurobindo and the Mother one way or another, but in India somehow Sri Aurobindo is not well known for some reason. Now it is becoming more kind of prominent subject, and you start every TV Doordarshan, which is state Doordarshan in Delhi, you start with a statue of Sri Aurobindo. Did you notice it? That is statue of Sri Aurobindo. Why? Because, Sri Aurobindo was born on the August 15th. Interesting, yes. August 15th, independence of India. And when it happened, Sri Aurobindo was the freedom fighter when he came from England to India, yes, at the beginning of the century. At the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, he was totally engaged in this freedom fighting movement. He was the father of freedom fighting movement. He was, not Gandhi. Gandhi joined much later, as you know, historically. So Sri Aurobindo was already in his ashram fighting for the independence of humanity, and not only India, because he was convinced, or he was given this sign by Krishna that liberation of India is coming, that it is already done. So he concentrated on much more important issue to liberate humanity in general. But what is interesting that when this day came and Sri Aurobindo was there, it was then he spoke. He never spoke to the audience for the 30 years in a row, and then he spoke, and his text was read on All India radio, where he said that this was actually the sign of his dedication to India, that the God, the divine, actually acknowledged his fighting for India's liberation by making it on his birthday as a present to him. It's kind of interesting to know, because these are very rare kind of events in our lives. So whenever there is Independence Day of India, that is Sri Aurobindo's birthday. You should remember that. There are many interesting things about his life, of course. It's a very unique individual who had an enormous, nearly a photographic memory. He could read the book and remember every page. Even his, colleagues and students in the school, they were making fun of him. So, did you read the book? Yes. What is on the page? Some 114. And he could tell them exactly what was on the page. So he had this very advanced, so to say, developed mental being, which is important to understand to know Sri Aurobindo better. And also, as he says, he learned many languages. He learned ancient Greek, Latin, Spanish, Italian, German, French. And French, he said that he simply remembered from his past life. He didn't even learn it. It came to him as if memory from the past life. Can you imagine such an individual? Would you remember your past life language? It's kind of a very different soul, a very advanced soul, so to say. And when he saw that yoga can be very effective and has a power, and that was his experience when his brother was sick and they didn't know what to do. He had malaria, very high fever. And they invited one sadhu from the street to help them. And so sadhu came and mumbled mantra over the water and gave him to drink. And within some time, immediately his brother recovered and the fever went down. And he thought, wow, if this yoga has such a power, I need that power to liberate my country. He was still in this liberation mood. And so he spoke to God. he said, I'm not sure that you are there, but if you are, you know my heart, that I don't ask anything for myself, no mukti, nothing. Just give me the power to liberate this country. And as you see, he was given that power. That's why 15th of August is his birthday and Independence Day of India. But that power was much greater than just to liberate India. It was the power to liberate all of us who are not even in India. So his journey started from that moment, and he met Vishnu Bhaskar Lele, who became his teacher, actually, Maharashtrian yogi. And that Maharashtrian yogi told him, okay, you sit down. Oh, he said first thing, you are a poet. Oh, it will be easy for you to meditate. And a poet. For poets, it's easier to meditate, it seems. So he told him, you sit down and observe your mind. Don't try to follow your thoughts. Look at them as if from the distance. And when you see them, you brush them away, you cast them away. When the thoughts come into your mind, you just cast them away. That's the only instruction he got. And Sri Aurobindo was wondering, saying, oh, I never heard of this before, that thoughts can come from outside into your mind. But within 3 days, he succeeded. Within 3 days, he succeeded to do this. And he said his consciousness was rising high above the head, and he saw his mind as if from the windless air. He looked at his mind and he saw one thought concretely coming into his mind, and then another concretely coming into his mind. And then he brushed them away, and he kept that space of his inner mind empty. And within 3 days he succeeded, and the immense silence descended upon him. That's what he called the realization of the silent Brahman, or Nirvana. He suddenly stopped thinking by himself. He saw thoughts, yes? He could invoke thoughts, but they were not generating, or they were not dominating him. As he said, finally I was free from my mind. So he became free from his mind. That was the gift of Vishnu Bhaskar Lila. And then once he went for this speech, to deliver the speech, because he continued this freedom fighting movement, even in that state. And he was very close to Tilak, you know Tilak, Gangadhar Tilak. He was the great fighter for Indians' independence. And he went to this speech and he said to Vishnu, to his teacher, how can I speak if I have no thoughts? I have to deliver the speech. And Vishnu Bhaskar Lale told him that thoughts will come. You can do this one way, that you offer or bow to the audience as Narayana, as the universal divine. And if you bow to the audience as universal divine, speech and thoughts will come. And Sri Aurobindo says, yes, they came, the whole speech came. It was like flowing through him. Yes, he was observing what is coming, and it was a perfect speech. So this is what Sri Aurobindo's early days. Then what happened, he continued his freedom fighting movement, and he was arrested. In 1909, he was arrested, and it was Alipur's case, bomb case. He was preparing still bombs, can you imagine? And writing articles and against British rule. And so he had to be executed, truly speaking. But what happened, they substituted it for one. First of all, he was imprisoned and was sitting in that cell Actually, I visited his jail in Calcutta. It's amazing jail. You had to see his cell. And in that cell, there is his portrait still there. They put portrait, incense sticks, flowers, and all the thieves and robbers who sit in the jail, they come there to make puja to Sri Aurobindo as their own thief and robber. They still consider him like a guru or something, you know. This can happen only in India, you know, this kind of adoration of the guru in jail. So he was there 1 year, and in that year things happened dramatically in his life, because he's, first of all, Vivekananda, who already left his body, came in the subtle body to Sri Aurobindo and opened for him the realms of the mind beyond illumined mind, to the intuition, towards the overmind, and pointing towards the higher supramental. That was the contribution. For 2 weeks, Vivekananda was coming to him and offering him this kind of teaching in the subtle body. Can you imagine what it is? And then, of course, Krishna was there. Krishna came to him because he cried to Krishna. He said, "What do you mean for me this? Do you meant that this is my work, to sit in jail here instead of fighting for independence?" And Krishna came and said that no, I didn't mean this for you, but you didn't listen to me. You were too busy with the freedom fighting movement. I tried to speak to you, but you didn't pay attention to my word. And Sri Aurobindo said, yes, I remember there was word coming, but I was really too busy, liberating India. So that was the arrangement by Krishna. The imprisonment of Sri Aurobindo was the arrangement by Krishna to take him away from his busy schedule and have time with him. It's the most holy imprisonment in the history of mankind. So for 1 year, Krishna was with him, and Sri Aurobindo says Krishna put the Gita into his hands, explained everything to him, gave him the profound knowledge which he calls the realization of the cosmic, dynamic Brahman. Sri Aurobindo started to see in everything and everyone the presence of Narayana, of Krishna. Yes. It was not the bars of his cells, as he says. His cell had bars. It was not the bars of his cell anymore. It was Krishna protecting him. It was not the tree anymore. And it was Narayana who was giving shade and saving him from the scorching sun. He saw Krishna in everything and everyone. In those, robbers and thieves, he saw those souls within them, yes, and it was a profound experience for him 1 year. And when he was brought to the court, he didn't see any more prosecutor or judge. It was Narayana smiling at him from every face. So miraculously he was justified. Some evidence was lost, and the whole case was dismissed, and he was released. And when he was released, he delivered this profound speech, Uttarpara speech, where he explained what happened to him and what he is to do and what Krishna is doing. And he said that Krishna revealed to him that everyone works for him, for Krishna. Everybody does his work, knowingly or unknowingly. People think that even those who fight against the divine, they are doing Krishna's work because they do not see the whole, chain of events. They are used on the way. They think that they're doing their egoistic work, but by doing that egoistic work, aiming at their egoistic aims, they are really following Krishna's work and fulfilling all the elements which are needed for his work. This was a great, and also he got initiation into the languages, in the origins of Aryan speech. Later he will speak about this, that Krishna revealed to him the origin of all human languages, which is one of the greatest contributions of Sri Aurobindo to the development of new science of language. By the way, we are using his approach to Sanskrit studies. That's why it's so interesting to see how etymons, the system of simple root sounds, builds the whole tapestry of the meaning in our relations to reality. So this is Sri Aurobindo's journey. From that time on, he heard the voice, go to Pondicherry. He went to Pondicherry and settled there. There was hardly anyone there, few people, few disciples, and that's it. And he was there. And somebody even asked him, why didn't he move ever from Pondicherry? From 1910 till 1950, 40 years he was in Pondicherry. And he said, well, I didn't get another Adesh to go somewhere else. So he got one Adesh command to go to Pondicherry, that was it. Another didn't come, so he stayed in Pondicherry. And in 1914, Mother met him, came to meet with him, and that was the most profound change in his life. They met. Mother knew about him from her subtle experiences in the subtle body. She called him Krishna. She thought it was Krishna, but when they met, she recognized him as her leading teacher, guru. And so from that time on, in 1920, when Mother finally arrived to stay with Sri Aurobindo from 1920 to 1973, it was like 53 years she was in Pondicherry, never leaving Pondicherry. She built the ashram. I cannot go into all the details because it's just a brief overview. I just wanted to give you the sense of who Sri Aurobindo is and who the mother was. He called her the mother. In 1926, there was a big event when from 1920 to 1926, Mother was with him, but she was like a part of the family, so to say, ashram family. There were hardly, like in 1926, there were approximately 30 people there, yes, altogether. And in that moment, there's something happened. And Sri Krishna himself, as she says, Mother says, she saw it with her eyes, with her inner eyes, descended into Sri Aurobindo's body. And when that happened, she rushed into Sri Aurobindo's room and said, I saw what happened, that Krishna descended into you. And he said, okay, you know what has happened. Now you will take charge of the ashram, and I will withdraw to the seclusion to hasten the whole process of evolution and to bring the higher consciousness, which he called supermind, which is the next stage in our evolution in the human beings, down to the earthly, to the physical body. So Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo in one body were doing this yoga for 24 years. He was 24 years in one room in seclusion. 24 years, to 1950, till he left his body. And from that time on, he announced Mira Alfasa, who is the name of the mother, as the mother. He recognized her as the mother. She was the divine mother, coming in four aspects, four major manifestations, yes, Mahashaktis of Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati in one body, which is the rarest of the events in the history of humanity. This is, I'm telling you, the story from the disciple and follower of Sri Aurobindo. Many of you do not appreciate this language, and I understand why. But that is Sri Aurobindo's words. It's not my words. You see, if Sri Aurobindo would not say this, I would never dare to speak this way. He recognized in her their mother. Find her, Sri Aurobindo says, and you will find all. Find all through the mother. And I want to tell you who the mother is in this vision of integral yoga. The mother is actually the Paraprakriti, or Aditi of the Veda, the infinite consciousness bliss, who has to charge our lower Prakriti or Apara Prakriti of mind, life, and body with its own energy and consciousness and bliss. To make this possible, the soul, who is in the Veda known as Yajamana, is doing this sacrificial work of the offering, everything to the higher consciousness. Because the soul itself is the Jiva Bhuta Paraprakriti. Yes? Paraprakriti becomes Jiva. And Jiva is representing Paraprakriti as a spark growing within this lower Prakriti. And by growing here and expanding more and more, coming more and more to the front, we will speak about the whole course is dedicated to this spark, which is growing to the front and its evolution and development of our individual soul. It brings more and more the powers of the Paraprakriti, which is the nature of the Supreme, the nature of the Purushottama. So in this way, the soul itself grows and becomes more and more like Purushottama, like the Supreme in the individual frame. It's an amazing journey of both growth of the soul and growth and change of Prakriti into Paraprakriti, into the nature of the Supreme. This is the whole vision of the integral yoga. Yes? What is to happen? Our soul is the child of the mother, of Paraprakriti. But here doing this work to bring the mother down. And the whole gist of integral yoga is about this, bringing this force down, allowing mother to come down and do the work in this adhar, in this vehicle. Yes? Change our mind, life, and even physical body. We cannot do this yoga by ourselves. Nobody can. The soul can only aspire and invoke the Divine Mother. Once the Mother answers, once the grace is answering to your call, to your aspiration flame in the heart, this connection is made and it has to continue and grow in relations. The more the force comes from above, the more aspiration is kindled from within the heart. And these two make all the yoga possible. That's this integral yoga. You may name them differently, not the Divine Mother, not the soul, doesn't matter. But there is a calling from within, and there is the answer from above. And these two, when they meet, doesn't matter how we call them, because there is an objection from any normal mind, especially atheistic or materialistic or any other religion coming from, yes, there can be an objection. Why you speak this language? It's only language. Language is only a kind of a finger pointing to the truth, yes? So we are used to call this way because it actually helps us. But for others, it is a very unusual language. So I want to clarify this point, that you should not pay much attention to the language. Look at what is really happening behind, yes, what we want to express.